have Maureen Conifrey, who is our commission secretary. We have the member, Brian Crow. We
Okay.
have Vice President of the Commission, Steve Nicasio. And we have Brad Russi, who is counsel to the Fire Commission.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that.
And if at any time you need a clarification, don't hesitate just to speak up and ask for it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
And I'm Commissioner Morgan.
Did I not introduce you?
I think you
Because I think you're jumping
I
around
thought you were
on my
saving me for last.
Well, no, I apologize. I just thought you were out in the woods somewhere. So forgive
I'm on
me.
vacation.
Forgive me. Yes, and Commissioner Army Morgan.
Okay, thank you.
Court reporter. Okay. It is 10 a.m. and I think we're ready to go, are we not, Madam Secretary?
I believe we are.
All right.
And I'll just wait for your cue to let me know when I'm going to start actually writing anything. Is that correct?
Okay, we are starting now.
Okay.
This meeting is President Feinstein called to order. This is the San Francisco Fire Commission special meeting, April 5th, 2022, and the time is 10 o'clock. This meeting is being held by WebEx pursuant to Government Code Section 54953E and mayoral proclamations declaring the existence of a local emergency. To join the meeting, use the following link address for attendees on the posted agenda on the Fire Commission website. To participate during public comment, please call 1-415-655-0001 and use access code 2493-065-9852. Members of the public will have opportunities to participate during public comment. The public is asked to wait for the particular agenda item before making a comment on that item. Comments will be addressed in the order they are received. When the moderator announces that the commission is taking public comment, members of the public can raise their hand by pressing *3 and you will be queued. Callers will hear silence when waiting for your turn to speak. Operator will unmute you. When prompted, callers will have 2 minutes to provide comment. Please ensure you are in a quiet location. Speak clearly and slowly so the court reporter can take down your comment, and turn off any TVs or radios around you. Item 1, roll call. President Catherine Feinstein.
Present.
Vice President Stephen Nicasio.
Present.
Commissioner Francie Covington.
Present.
Commissioner Army Morgan.
Present.
Item 2, case number 2021-07, hearing and deliberations on verified complaint with the Commission by Chief of Department. On November 3rd, 2021, Chief of Department Janine Nicholson filed a verified complaint with the Fire Commission against member for a non-disciplinary separation. This case may be heard in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B and San Francisco Administrative Code Section 67.10B. President Feinstein, I'm not sure if you want to get preliminary matters out of the way before we call public comment?
I do. I just want to make clear for the record, although we reviewed the attendees prior to going on the record, but I want them to be reflected on the record. With me are Commissioners Vice President Steve Nicasio, Commissioner Francie Covington, Commissioner Army Morgan. Also present is Chief of the Department, Janine Nicholson. Counsel for the department, Brad Russey. And I'm sorry, counsel for the commission, Brad Russey. And next to him is counsel for the department, Jennifer Stoughton. Also present is the member, Ryan Crow. And these proceedings are being reported by certified court reporter Kayla Knowles. And if any time, I'm going to just caution people, please, if any time you're reading something or you're speaking too rapidly, please be merciful on the court reporter. She has to take down every word that is said, and it's very difficult to do. Sometimes people get a little ahead of themselves. So I just wanted to ask out of courtesy to her that we do that. I think the other preliminary matters can wait, and I think we can proceed to public comment at this point.
Okay. Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Your time starts now. Thank you.
This is Dan Yantz, retired San Francisco Fire. During these termination hearings, a couple commissioners have asked good questions regarding religious exemptions. Other questions seem to have been based on fear, which is disappointing. Fear compromises your ability to make wise, informed decisions. Bear with me as I ask some questions I think everyone here should be asking. Why were treatments previously determined by the NIH to be detrimental for SARS-CoV-2 the primary means of treatment for COVID? Why did several European news agencies sign the Trusted News Initiative, agreeing to not report any news detrimental to vaccines? Did US news agencies that receive 75% of their funding from pharmaceuticals make a similar agreement? Why were therapies that were successfully treating tens of thousands of patients censored, along with the treating doctors who testified before Congress? These therapies would have not allowed a mid-trial experimental vaccine to be approved under the EUA. If EUA approval must be based on all available scientific evidence, why did the FDA request the information they use from Pfizer be sealed for 75 years? And why does the FDA recall over 1,000 drugs every year? Drugs they previously deemed safe and effective. These are only a few of the many questions everyone here should be asking. These firefighters you're firing are not basing their decisions on fear. They've asked hard questions, applied critical thinking, and have observed inappropriate government overreach. When they were hired, they took an oath to defend the Constitution. They've demonstrated courage and honor, making difficult and costly decisions. Decisions I believe will eventually.
Mr. Saban, would you like to make public comment?
Yes, hello.
Your time starts now.
Okay. Yes, this is Greg Saban, forced to retire prematurely. Sadly, we are here to witness the unlawful termination of our brother, Ryan Crow, a strong, dedicated worker, husband, and father of two, the youngest being just a few months old. Everyone attending these meetings by now know that these hearings are just a charade. The commissioners pretend to listen to statements, evidence, and facts, and then pretend to actually deliberate before coming back with a predetermined outcome recommending termination. The public has been watching, and no one is fooled. The logic behind your decisions has become almost laughable. This is all based on a health order that states that the vaccine will prevent you from getting COVID. If the vaccine is so effective, then why does the chief feel it would be necessary for unvaccinated firefighters to wear masks while eating, sleeping, and taking showers to protect the vaccinated? And now the booster mandate for most city employees, excluding the fire department, has been dropped, even though the efficacy of the vaccine for most employees has probably expired by now, and yet they are still allowed to work. The deadline for the fire department has been moved to June 15th, just far enough out to get through the last of these shameful hearings, and then I'm sure the fire department's booster mandate will be dropped as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Sure, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, your time starts now.
Okay, great. Here's a question a commissioner might want to ask. If the vaccinated can catch and spread COVID, why aren't they being fired? If the unvaccinated are being fired for not following orders, why is this a non-disciplinary separation? Shouldn't it be disciplinary? We have one commissioner thinks the chief is saving people's lives by firing them. One commissioner is on record saying she gets her information from the Chronicle, but would not allow a doctor's expert testimony and suggested natural immunity was a conspiracy theory. The doctor for the fire department is on record stating the shot is for yourself and you wear a mask to protect others. Oh, and the San Francisco Police Department can arrest a vulnerable population, ride in the back of the ambulance with them, go into a high-risk setting of a hospital, then take them to another high-risk setting of a jail and not have a booster. So you also have people in the fire department working without a booster for over 16 months and still being allowed to work. Is this making any sense for anyone? Also, Ms. Stoughton, I hope she brings it up again today. She really needs to read this health order. Section 6, Roman numeral 4, 1 and 2, you don't need to wear a mask at all times. You need to wear a mask while working in a high-risk setting. A firehouse is not a high-risk setting. Safeway is not a high-risk setting. Appendix A, sections A, B, and D specifically state you do not need to, unvaccinated people do not need to wear a mask indoors while showering, eating, or sleeping. Why are the commissioners letting them keep lying and misstating the facts over and over and over? I know we all hate unvaccinated people. I know they're horrible, but you might want to ask a couple.
Caller, would you like to make public comment?
I would. Mike
Your time
Crotty,
starts now.
firefighter. Every honest, ethical scientist and doctor is screaming from the rooftop about the atrocity being perpetrated against the population. At this point, willful ignorance or malfeasance is what's driving you all to proceed with this crime. This isn't going to end well for anyone, including all of you here conducting this injustice. You should be ashamed of yourselves and seriously look inward to salvage what's left of your humanity and souls. You can't pretend you're trying to help when you're actively causing great harm physically and psychologically. I pray one of you takes the time to read what the media is and admitting and stop calling us conspiracy theorists. The data is available what the pharmaceutical companies were trying to hide for and bury for 50 years. You should all be informed that what you're engaged in is conspiracy. You think very little of this good man Ryan Crow's career, but I bet you care about yours. Just know when this whole mess is sorted out, you better have some other means of making a living other than what position you hold now. Our command staff was engaged in harassing, intimidating, and coercing us by falsely claiming that if we didn't take the shot, we'd lose our pensions. In order to lose our pensions, we would have had to commit a crime of moral turpitude. Ironically, this is what you're all guilty of now. Abusing your power to falsely accuse and fire us is a crime of the highest moral failure, in my opinion. You will be judged more harshly than the sentences you've handed down. You think you can stand behind these city attorneys and be immune by using an excuse you were following orders. You mock us in our sincere beliefs and have destroyed our careers. I don't think anyone will be feeling sorry for any of you when the hammer falls on your corruption. This commission and all are engaged in criminal behavior. You're engaged in the crimes of extreme bias,
Your time is
collusion,
up. Thank you.
conspiracy.
Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yes, I would. Thank you. Good morning, brothers and sisters. Good morning, brothers and sisters. Prematurely retired Christopher Salas. Welcome to the Kangaroo Court of the San Francisco Fire Department, where the decision to terminate Firefighter Crow has been made before the proceedings begin. The City and County of San Francisco has ended the booster mandate for all city departments except the fire department. Interesting, perplexing. Could that be because all of you sitting in predetermined judgment would look even worse, more tyrannical, if you continue firing loyal firefighters with no mandate? Never mind the vaccines never worked to begin with. Regardless of what Ms. Stoughton says, the vaccines do not prevent catching or spreading COVID. They do not prevent that. The word prevent is not a red herring. It is not a distraction. Rather, it means what it means, to keep from happening or existing. We all know the vaccines did neither. Spare me the argument that it keeps people from severe illness or being hospitalized. That is a red herring. That is a distraction. Check San Francisco General Hospital numbers on January 20th, 2022. 69 COVID patients. 19 of those were unvaccinated. 32 were vaccinated and 18 were vaccine boosted. 50 of the 69 COVID patients at San Francisco General Hospital on January 20th, 2022 were fully vaccinated. 18 of those boosted. 72% of the COVID patients were fully vaccinated. The vaccines prevent nothing, Commissioner Morgan. I will continue to hope and pray that all of you misinformed people sitting in unconstitutional judgment, Firefighter Crow, will find the courage and moral fortitude to acknowledge the truth. God bless you all. We'll be praying for you.
Thank you. Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yes.
Your time starts now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kathy Johnson. Thank you for giving me a moment to speak on Ryan Crow's behalf. I've known Ryan for 9 years. That is when he started dating my daughter, Laura. They were married in 2015, which makes Ryan my son-in-law. My husband really liked Ryan from the beginning and said this was the first real man that Laura had dated. I was talking to a client about my family, and she admired how proud I was of Ryan. I didn't realize I was proud of him. I was simply sharing a little about him. Ryan is special. He's a dedicated family man. He's humble and he's kind. To give you an idea of the kind of man that you may let go of, in August of 2020, Ryan's hometown in the Santa Cruz Mountains was in trouble with forest fires. His parents still live in the area, but were staying at Laura and Ryan's because they were evacuated from their home. This area relies on volunteer firefighters. He didn't want to leave his wife and infant son, but he desperately wanted to help his hometown. Ryan decided to help his brothers in the fight. His wife was in tears. I was in tears. Laura knew the kind of man that Ryan is, and she had no choice but to support him as he left to go volunteer to fight in these forest fires. I am pro-vaccine and am boosted. This was my choice. We are blessed to live in America where people are given free choice. The reality is the vaccinated and non-vaccinated are both transmitting COVID. Ryan is a good man. His 2-year-old son, Sean, sums it up. When you ask Sean where his daddy is beautiful, he puts his hand over his heart. His 2-year-old sees it. I see it. You would see it too if you knew the man. We are a community that needs to support these people who risk their lives every day to save yours and your family's life. Why make these firefighters suffer from unemployment? Please rehire these firefighters today. God bless you.
Thank you. Caller, would you like to make public comment?
I would, thank you.
Your time starts
Good
now.
morning. Good morning. To whom this may concern, my name is Charlie McCoy, Captain of Station 22 of the San Francisco Fire Department. I'm calling on behalf of Firefighter Ryan Crow. I worked directly with Firefighter Crow at Station 36 from 2012 to 2018. Firefighter Crow is a husband, father, church-going member of his community, and a friend of myself and the members of the San Francisco Fire Department. Firefighter Crow began his career with the City of Davis Fire Department for 9 years, and then migrated to the San Francisco Fire Department
to follow in the footsteps of his grandfather, who was a lieutenant at 2 Truck. Prior to October 13, 2021, Firefighter Crow protected the citizens of the city and county of San Francisco. Respectfully, Chief Nicholson and fire commissioners, I implore you all to reconsider separating Firefighter Crow at the end of this business day. Collectively, you're all collaborating against logic. Someday, you may look back and realize you've taken personal property rights from a member of the San Francisco Fire Department. Ask yourself, how would you feel if the state or local government practiced eminent domain against your personal property rights? Chief Nicholson, you have the ability to rescind general orders. Please consider this one. I can only hope yourself and the Fire Commission will consider putting the citizens of the city and county of San Francisco and members of the San Francisco Fire Department before the agenda of the World Economic Forum. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yes, I would.
Your time
Can you hear me?
starts now? Yes.
Okay, thank you. My name is David Dahl. Ryan Crow introduced me to the fire service years ago, and I have never known a better or more morally strong man in my life. Today, I'm a captain of the city of Palo Alto. I work for the greater county of Santa Clara, which has over 1,000 firefighters, similar to San Francisco. We went through the same ordeal of our non-vaccinated members not being able to work and pulled off the line, being a detriment to their families. Our fire chiefs, city councils, and Santa Clara County Health worked collectively together and concluded that they could figure out a safe way to reintroduce these non-vaccinated personnel. For us, they do a rapid test prior to each shift, and they need to wear masks when in and around the station. This gives San Francisco the option to be able to make things work. We have not seen an increase in our vaccinated people spreading COVID-19 or an increase in our firefighters who are vaccinated by allowing this action. Currently, the fire service is in a hiring crisis and losing hundreds of firefighters to not allowing these firefighters to come back to work because they're unvaccinated will be a detriment to the fire service, to the cities, and the citizens we're sworn to protect. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barry, would you like to make public comment?
Yes, I would.
Your time starts now.
Thank you. I started working with Ryan Crow in 2016. We were tour buddies at Station 36, which means we worked watch for watch. I got to see that Ryan was an excellent firefighter. He's someone that you could plug into any spot on any rig, meaning he could work anywhere on the engine. He could be the driver, the firefighter, the EMT. We could detail him to a truck. He could drive it, he could tiller it, he could do whatever he wanted, and he could even drive the chief, and he was excellent in that role as well. Ever since Ryan was 18, he has made his own decisions on vaccines. It was a personal medical choice, not a political one. He is an exceptional employee. He's in for everything. He thinks of others before himself. He stepped up to be the house collector at 36 when it was vacant. It's a job that is it's very difficult and underappreciated. He volunteered to oversee all the hazmat tools and equipment were up to specs at Station 36, and to be the point of contact to repair all the CGIs used by the hazmat unit, the squads, and all 10 battalion chiefs. When Ryan was VR at 36, he had a medical issue, which he had to take some time off of work. The guys at the station went out of their way to donate time or to work trades because Ryan is so well respected by his coworkers. It would be devastating to lose an employee like Ryan Crow. He left a position as a firefighter with another jurisdiction because all he wanted to do was work for the San Francisco Fire Department. If there's any way to retain Ryan, I implore you to look into it. Maybe some type of alternative offered besides vaccination or termination.
Your time is up. Thank you.
Good luck.
Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yes, I would. My name is Amori Langmo. I'm a 13-year veteran of the Berkeley Fire Department. I've known Ryan since the first grade. Since I've known Ryan, he's always wanted to be a San Francisco firefighter, just like his grandfather. Ryan was actually who steered me towards a career in the fire service. Ryan is a friend, role model, and mentor to me. He's who I picked to pin my badge at my badge pinning ceremony when I was hired with the Berkeley Fire Department. The city of Berkeley still has unvaxxed firefighters and city employees who are currently still allowed to work and following that they wear a mask and get tested regularly. I am currently homesick with COVID right now, and I'm fully vaccinated and pro-vaccine. The vaccine does not stop you from spreading it or contracting it. I hope that you allow Ryan to keep his job. He's a father of 2 young kids. Please do not strip his livelihood from him. Thank you.
Thank you. Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yes, I would. Thank you. This is Dana Pompeo, forced to retire due to the mandate. There are 4 questions that we ask patients to determine if they are of sound mind to make an informed medical decision, which in some cases might cost them their lives. Those questions: what city are you in? What's the date? Who's the president? And how many quarters
Ma'am,
are in
I'm
it?
sorry. I'm going to have to ask you to slow down on behalf of the court reporter, please.
Those questions: what city are you in? What's the date? Who is the president? And how many quarters in a dollar? If they answer those 4 questions, then they have the right to make a medical decision that the crew has to respect, even if they don't agree with it. We would be with someone who has taken a bad fall and sliced their head open, and they could potentially die without medical care, and they answer those 4 silly questions. We have them sign an AMA against medical advice, and they get to go home. I'm sure that all of the firefighters that have come before this commission know the answers to those questions. Therefore, in the eyes of EMS and the fire department, they should be given the same rights as our patients, even if the commission, the chief, and the department doctor all think that by not doing this medical intervention, they could die. As to the risks, excuse me, as to the risks involved with taking an experimental injection, there should be informed consent, which I'm sure was not given to one person in the fire department. I urge you all to check out the FDA.org website, which basically says, no investigator may involve a human being as a subject in research unless he has obtained the legally effective informed consent of the subject without coercion or undue influence. The informed consent process is not only an ethical obligation for doctors, it is also a legal one. The doctor is required to discuss your diagnosis, the recommended treatment, and alternative treatment, and the risks associated with both, and the consequences of taking no action at all. If a doctor fails to obtain informed consent for non-emergency treatment, he or she may be charged with a civil offense.
Mr. McHugh, would you like to make public comment? Mr. McHugh, would you like to make public comment? Mr. McHugh? Caller, would you like to make public comment? Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I wish to speak on behalf of firefighter Ryan Crow and on behalf of all those who respect the value of public servants and those who fight to uphold freedom of medical choice. I ask this fire commission to please start protecting the livelihoods of our public service workers so that we can continue to protect our communities, so many of which are in a critical state of distress. The individuals who are losing their badges to mandates have all been through rigorous training programs, have provided many years of service. They've responded to countless calls to action in a city currently experiencing a public health crisis that far exceeds the confines of COVID-19. Hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars have been invested in each of the firefighters so willingly let go. This is not a simple matter of hiring others to fill their positions. This is time, training, city funds, and livelihoods needlessly wasted. There are successful alternative solutions as seen in many neighboring agencies. San Francisco Fire Department upholds in its own mission statement its intent to, quote, provide a work environment that is free from harassment and discrimination and values health, wellness, and cultural diversity and equity. The fact that Chief Nicholson and the San Francisco Fire Department calls into question Brother Crow's ability to keep his badge, let's force him to vaccinate, is a blatant display of harassment, discrimination, and inequity and has no place in your work environment according to your own mission statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, your time starts now.
My name is Michael Cricken, unlawfully terminated March 16. I don't think there's anything I could really say that's going to make a difference here. And I don't think that I'm going to be able to follow up with anything that everyone had already said before me. So I'm just going to start by just saying, Ryan, you're a good man, you're a good family man. Keep standing up for what you believe. Everything you're going to say today is going to go to deaf ears. These people don't care. Look outside their window. Look what they turned their city into. It's a complete war zone. But yet they pat each other on the back as if they're doing great things for their city. It's one of the worst cities in the nation. They said they're ready to replace all of us civil servants if we refuse the shot. But yet PD threatened about 500-600 of them were going to stand in solidarity. All of a sudden they're moving the goalpost back. Something I wish we could have done for our fire department. So with that said, I'm just going to do something that I promise I would never do for people with no due regard for families and people. I would never pray for them. But today, I'm actually going to pray for you guys. And it's going to be difficult for me, but I'm going to do it. So with that said, I'm just going to close it out by saying, hold the line. All of us that are standing, what few of us are standing in solidarity, stay together. At the very end, we're going to win this.
Thank you. Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yes, please.
Your time starts now.
Commissioners, at this point, to continue this theater is wrong. The health order clearly states that an unvaccinated firefighter can work safely and efficiently with certain protocols put into place. Everything Ms. Stoughton says and Mr. Yan says is a fallacy. To go around that or to create an illusion around it is criminal. Ask yourselves, when was the last time the Joint Management Committee to disseminate accurate information of COVID meant? Ask the chief. Because at this point today, and as of yesterday, 11,000 pages of information have been presented that are not favorable to anybody that is being terminated. They are not a threat to anyone else. They are not a threat to any population. The vaccine only helps the individual at most. So ask yourselves again, what accommodations, what has been provided to this firefighter for the now than it wasn't the 18 months prior that they were doing their job? Nothing has changed except a piece of paper that is now clear as day is incorrect. You are in your full capabilities to rescind and reinstate this firefighter as the commission and look for other avenues for these people to stay on their jobs, because you're going to make a short-term decision that's going to be permanent in this man's life for his family. And the whole evolution of COVID is changing every single day. He is not a direct threat. The science is what it is now to anybody. You can look it up. You can read it. So to continue this charade, to continue this theater is completely and utterly wrong. Make the
time is
right
up. Thank you.
decision and ask.
And that is the end of public comment.
All right, thank you, Madam Secretary. Public comment will be closed. And thank you, I show it as 10:34. What I would like to do is go through the preliminaries, how things are going to proceed, and then I will check in with the court reporter and see if she needs a break, because as I mentioned before, she is having to record on a court reporter's machine every word that is said, and I need to be mindful of giving her a break every hour and 15 minutes to hour and a half. Is that, does that meet with your approval, Madam Court Reporter?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yes. Okay, very good. As an initial matter, we must determine whether this hearing will proceed in open or in closed session. Under Section 7B of the procedural rules, members have the right to have the hearing on a verified complaint held in open session or in closed session. The commission always has the power to hold some or all of the hearing in closed session for reasons such as third-party privacy rights or where disclosure of certain information is prohibited under the law. That has yet to come up in a hearing of this nature, but I do want to put that on the record that is a right the commission retains. So, Firefighter Crow, let me ask you, do you wish to proceed in open or closed session? Can't hear you. Sorry, sir.
So I think Firefighter Crow put in the chat earlier that he was having trouble with his audio. And Firefighter Crow nod or tell me I'm saying the wrong thing, but I think he said he needed to restart WebEx because he couldn't get his audio to work.
Was he able to hear? Can he hear us?
It looks like he can, yes.
Oh,
Can you say something, please? Because I just unmuted him. No.
Okay, no, I mean, this is important. So, Madam Secretary, please direct us. Do you want us all to sign out and go back to the initial link? I see.
No, we
Mr.
don't need
Bussey.
to. We don't need to do that.
All right, let me ask you this. Should we take a 5 or 10 minute recess?
I think that would be great.
All right, and then you can test it and see that it works, and we'll be ready to go. Okay, so it's 10:37. How about we come back in 8 minutes, 10:45, and check in and see how things are going. All
Great,
right.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
I believe we're all back on.
I believe you are correct. All right. We'll return to the matter at hand. And I just want to double check, Firefighter Crow. Could you hear me ask you the question about whether you wished to participate? You wanted an open session or closed session?
Yes, I apologize for the technical difficulties. I could hear
No
everything, but
problem.
my microphone was not working. But President Feinstein, I would like to mention that I received about 10 text messages saying that they had their hand raised in public comment and were not called upon on the phone line. One of which I also got a phone call from my mother who was would really like to make a public comment. And if possible, I'd like to move that we try to reopen public comment so that they can give a second attempt to get on the comment line.
Well, I'm going to have to turn to Mr. Russi for advice on that. I don't see any no, I don't see that part of anything. I see the screen with all of you in a grid. So I don't know how many people are watching. I don't know how many people raise their hands for public comment. I don't have any of the notes. I know people chat back and forth, but I don't see that, and the other commissioners don't either. So we just have to rely on our commission secretary, who's pretty crackerjack at this. But Mr. Russi, what is your advice, sir?
I think you should reopen public comment if there are people who were unable to get through.
All right, do we show them, Madam Secretary?
So I went through all the attendees that had their hand raised. I wrote down their user number or their name, and I went through everybody that had their hand raised under the attendee.
It seemed like it was mostly the callers who were on the phone line, not the WebEx app. If that, I don't know.
So I'm only using the WebEx app, so I don't have a separate phone line. And I don't see anybody's hand raised at the moment.
So I'm no expert on WebEx, as anybody can tell you. So
okay, I just saw Mr. Hickey pop up. He was not there when I originally went through the list, so he just popped up right now, Mr. John Hickey. It's the only hand I see raised.
Maureen, if I may, how many people are on the call? Is it like?
There's 50 participants, including the panelists.
Okay, so it would take too long to go to each one and ask them if they want to make public comment, even if they don't have their hand raised?
Well, it would take a long time.
Can people still call in through WebEx?
So the instructions and the telephone number, I believe I read the telephone number and the access code, and anybody that came in as an attendee, I believe also has the option to raise their hand. I don't know for sure. I've never done it myself. But if you press *3, it should raise your hand and notify me. And the only hand I see raised at the moment, okay, now caller 36 just raised their hand. They weren't on the original.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and in an abundance of caution, reopen public comment. And to those that are listening, they need to follow the commission secretary's directions in terms of how to make public comment over WebEx. Yes, Commissioner Covington? Can't hear you.
Thank you, Madam President. I think it might be helpful to have the Commission Secretary read again the process.
That's fine. If you would, Madam Secretary.
Okay. To participate during public comment, please call 1-415-655-0001 and use access code 2493-064-9852. You may also join the meeting by using the link for attendees that is posted on the agenda at the Fire Commission website. Please raise your hand by pressing *3 and you will be queued for public comment. Callers will hear silence when waiting for your turn to speak. I will unmute you. When prompted, callers will have 2 minutes to provide comment. Ensure you are in a quiet location. Speak clearly and slowly so the court reporter can take down your comment, and turn off any TVs or radios around you.
All right. Mr. Russi, yes, sir.
People who are joining through the WebEx application who have not called in, if they want to raise their hand, there's a raise hand button on the screen, and that's how you do it.
All right.
So will I go to Mr. Hickey?
Yes, we're reopening public comment, and I don't know how Mr. Hickey is contacting us, but we'll follow Mr. Russi's guidance on this.
Mr. Hickey, would you like to make public comment?
Yes, I would.
Your time starts now.
All right. My name is John Hickey. I'm one of the battalion chiefs of Battalion 28 at Station 36. And I'm here to speak on behalf of Ryan Crow's character. I've known Ryan Crow for many years before he even came into the San Francisco Fire Department, from his previous position with the Davis Fire Department. Since he's been in the department, we've grown closer as friends than anything. I see this man growing in every aspect of this job, as an adult, a young man with children, a father, a husband. Every day I see Ryan just doing something to help him and help others in the fire station, around the firehouse, quietly, unassuming, always happy. I've been in the fire service for about 37 years, and there's only been a handful of men that has the character and the respect that Ryan Crow has by others. I wish that board would reconsider, letting Ryan go. I know there's a lot of good firefighters that choose not to do the vaccination. Again, I feel that's their choice. I know Ryan, up to the day he left, he was doing stuff to help out our station and the rest of the department without hesitation. I just wanted the commission to know that we're losing a lot of great people. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yes, I would.
Your time starts now.
My name's Chrisanne Clifford Crow, and needless to say, I'm Ryan's mother. Ryan had a wonderful career at the city of Davis, involved our whole family, and we loved it. His whole goal, however, his entire fire life, which started at age 14 as a volunteer where we live in the Santa Cruz Mountains, was to work for San Francisco Fire like his grandfather did. I begged him not to stay in the small family-oriented Department of Davis. However, he was determined and he made it. I realized he still was in a family and we appreciated that. I put his badge on him up at City of Davis, and he said to me, I would do this job for free. And he has said that to me often ever since. My great-grandmother was, I'm fifth generation San Franciscan. My kids are not. I should have had them up there. But since the beginning of the turn of the century, my great-grandparents, especially my great-grandmother, fought for freedom and the right for the Chinese Laundry Workers Union to be able to be treated respectfully versus slave labor. She also fought for women's rights to vote, not just in Santa Cruz or San Francisco, but straight to Washington. That's allowed women to fill positions like a chief position, like an attorney, like a vice president. Our family has been committed to fighting for freedom and fairness and respect and no retaliation. Ryan has had a passion for the fire service since he was 3. He,
Thank
my
you.
father was a...
Your time is up. Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yes, I will.
Caller? Your time starts now. Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Liam Murphy, active member of the San Francisco Fire Department, member of Station 36.
I'm having a hard time
I wanted
hearing.
to remind the commission of one thing.
I'm going to
Excuse me.
stop. He's
Yeah,
just blur. His audio is blurry, at least to me.
Your connection's not coming in clear, sir.
Okay, I'll try it again.
And slowly, please, sir.
Hi, my name is Liam Murphy. How's that?
Much better. Thank you.
I want to remind the commission of one thing. Your only job is to make the San Francisco Fire Department a better place. By firing Ryan Crow, you're doing the exact opposite. You're making it a worse place. Throughout my 20s, I've tried to work with the best of the best. This started in the special warfare fields of naval special warfare, went to the Army.
I'm kind of having a hard time. It's a little muffled for me. I'm sorry.
All right. That is the court reporter speaking. And I don't know, sir, if there's a way for you to perhaps change locations or I don't know if you're inside or outside, but this does need to be recorded by the court reporter. And if she can't hear you, she can't do that.
Roger that.
She needs to hear you in order to report, as a certified court reporter must do, because there will be a transcript of this entire hearing, including all the public comments that will be
Yes, ma'am.
produced. So let's try again if you can shift positions or again, I don't know if you're inside or outside, but get to a place where your audio is more clear than it is.
Okay, I have done all that. How's this?
Much better, and let's hope it holds. Much better.
All right. Hi, my name is Liam Murphy, active member of the San Francisco Fire Department and member of Station 36. I want to remind the commission of one thing. Your only job is to make the San Francisco Fire Department a better place. By firing Ryan Crow, you are only doing the exact opposite. Ryan has done nothing but volunteered in one of the busiest stations in the nation, taking an extra job by being the lead hazmat specialist for the San Francisco Fire Department. These are not jobs we take lightly. These are jobs that can, at any second, take our life. They require extra training, extra time.
Hello?
So therefore, by firing Ryan Crow, you are only making San Francisco Fire Department a worse place. Please think about what you're doing. Ryan Crow is a top-notch individual that is hard to find not only in the city of San Francisco, but around the world and the nation. Thank you for your time. Bye.
Thank you. Ms. Swigsheed, would you like to make public comment?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me okay?
Your time starts now.
My name is Wendy. I'm a retired medic, and I want to take a moment to say what this city and commission has done to these amazing firefighters is beyond words. These brave men and women that run into danger when you are running out deal with people on their worst days of their lives. They were good enough for the city during the pandemic and the unknowns. It is now known that the shot doesn't stop the transmission of this flu. The chief is obviously well aware of this. Now they are dealing with a group of commissioners and fire department attorneys that are biased and unprofessional. The president of the commission has on numerous times spouted that she would not allow an unvaxxed first responder into her home. A fire department attorney that is unprofessional, outing protected personal info of a firefighter in a public forum. Condescending, speaks half-truths, if that. How are these individuals able to get a fair hearing? I personally know these firefighters, medics, fireboat engineer. They have become my family. Ira, Tommy, Jeff, Sarah, Jessica, Eddie, Mike, Jessica, and Will are the firefighter and medics you have fired to date. There's still Ryan, Mark, Jack, Leaf, and Marcos awaiting the chopping block. That doesn't include those that were forced to retire. I hope you think of them and remember them and their families when you go to sleep at night. Thank you.
Mr. Farad, would you like to make public comment?
Yes, I would. Thank you for the time. My name's Brian Farid. I'm a captain with the City of Davis Fire Department. I've been there for about 20 years. I spent about half my career working with Ryan Crow, and it was an absolute pleasure. I call him a friend, a brother, and an excellent fireman. When I heard he was choosing to go to San Francisco to follow in his grandfather's legacy, I begged and pleaded with him to not go because he was such an asset to our department, asset like he was to your department and to the people he serves. Ryan possesses a lot of skills that most firefighters don't have, and they take a lot of extra time and effort and commitment to gain. I know he serves quietly with his head down, but he is one of the most capable people you'll ever meet. During the beginning of this pandemic, when we thought this thing was going to kill 10% of the population, he showed up to work and he risked his own life. He risked his family's life at the time, selflessly serving his community. And now that we know what we know now, it's a real travesty that you're going through with this because it seems like we're just doubling down on the wrong decision. We had several members in our department that made the same decision. None of them have lost their jobs as of now. And our last 9 infections were all in triple vax people. And they all went home and infected their triple vax families. This just doesn't have any point anymore. It's become politicized, and now you're harming people who risk everything. Firefighters don't typically live to be old men. It's part of the sacrifice of the job, and it's one that he's made. He's a family. He has a son and a daughter and a wife that depend on him, and it's not right taking away a man's livelihood like that, especially
Your time
someone
is up.
who
Thank
serves.
you. Okay, and those are all the hands that I see in my participant column. One more hand just came up.
All right.
Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yes, I would. Can you hear me?
Time starts now.
Okay. My name is Dielo Ote Baeza, also a member of Station 36. Been working there with Ryan Crow for about the last 4 years. And again, he's just kind of repeating the same thing everybody else has said. He's a good man, good person. He was there previous to my time joining the station. And as I came in, he open mind, open heart, and kept me in the loop and trying to better myself for the station and the department as not only a fireman and driver, EMT, and all the above, but in the hazmat, which is, in my opinion, the biggest asset that he has, and for the department, the city, and the station. Again, he's just an all-around good character. It's frustrating to see that a decision has more than likely already been made. I hope that you guys are listening with open ears and open hearts towards just keeping the department the strong character that it's been for over 150 years. And again, just try to keep in mind that it's the betterment of the department. No politics, all politics aside, and making what's best for morally and ethically for the people of the city, the county, and all of the above.
I think we've lost him.
No, still here. Just kind of lost my words once I got on here.
Okay, your time is up. Thank you. Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yes, I would.
Time starts now.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm a firefighter with the city and county of San Francisco and also a member of Station 36. It is in working at Station 36 that I met firefighter Ryan Crow. Ryan has been a firefighter for 16 years. He began his career with the city of Davis. He spent 9 years with Davis and left at the rank of acting captain. Ryan left the Davis Fire Department for a position with San Francisco. He gave up all of his benefits and rank he held with Davis to start at the bottom of San Francisco. During his time with San Francisco, Ryan has served honorably and to the best of his ability. Ryan has spent the majority of his career at Station 36. Engine 36 is a downtown company and the third busiest engine in San Francisco. The member trained as hazardous material specialist. Ryan is one.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm
Hello?
sorry, the court reporter, are you having a breakup in sound, Madam Court Reporter?
Yes, did you get that too? I was having him break up.
Yes.
I'll slow it down.
Yes, please. And again, I don't know where you're located, but if you can be in a place with the best reception you possibly can, that would be helpful because you are breaking up from time to time. So I'd appreciate it. Are you with me, sir?
Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Engine 36 is a downtown company and the third busiest engine in San Francisco. The members of Station 36 are also trained as hazardous material specialists. Ryan is one of the leaders on the only specialized unit that responds to all hazardous materials incidents in the city of San Francisco. He is respected and often sought after for his knowledge and expertise. As a respected leader and experienced firefighter, Ryan is in the business of making calculated risk assessments. After confronting this pandemic downtown with all of the risks and uncertainty, Ryan put himself and his family at risk, without question. Now being mandated to take a vaccine that does not prevent the spread of COVID, that does not protect against infection, and carries a significant risk for vaccine injury, Ryan is making another calculated decision. With vaccine mandates and booster mandates, you will continuously lose professionals of this caliber. By terminating Ryan, you have to acknowledge you are weakening your workforce. You are terminating a 16-year veteran firefighter. You are terminating all of the hazardous materials expertise
Thank you.
he
Your time
holds.
is up. Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yes, I would. Thank you. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm a coworker of Ryan Crow's at Engine 36. Ryan is an exceptional firefighter and a huge contributor to our hazmat program. I've never heard anyone speak illy of Ryan, and if you've ever met him, you would know why. He's passionate about being a firefighter, has huge amounts of integrity, is impeccably reliable, and is full of compassion for the city he serves. It would be detrimental to both the department and the citizens of San Francisco if Ryan was to be terminated because of his stance on the COVID vaccine. Understanding that the vaccine only protects the person who receives it and actually increases the chance of exposure to patients is hard to accept, but it is the truth. Symptomless carriers of the virus, vaccinated or unvaccinated, are the primary reason viruses spread undetected. Weekly testing is the safest way to keep the at-risk citizens of San Francisco protected from exposures to COVID-19. In San Francisco, since March 2020, COVID has infected over 133,000 people and killed 843 of those infected. That's a 0.6% case mortality. Not to downplay the pandemic, but in the same time period, Engines 1, 3, and 36 responded to 5,851 fentanyl overdose-related calls, and 1,454 of them ended in loss of life. That is a 25% case mortality rate, which makes fentanyl 42 times more deadly than COVID in San Francisco. My point in all these statistics is very simple. Letting Ryan Crow keep his
Your
career.
time is up. Mr. Dugan, would you like to make public comment?
Yes, I'd like to speak on the character of Mr. Crow.
Your time starts now.
I've had the pleasure to work with him over the last year at the firehouse. He is one of the most well-rounded and talented firefighters I've worked with over my career. I feel it's a huge loss to separate him from the department, especially his knowledge in hazardous materials. We're the main hazmat station, and his knowledge is just a great loss if he is separated from the department. Just getting to know him over the last year, I mean, he's a great father. He's become a good friend. He was a stand-up leader in the firehouse, and he would sorely be missed. I hope you reconsider separating him from the department so that he can continue to serve the citizens of San Francisco. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Capurro, would you like to make public comment?
Yes, this is Lieutenant Vince Pampinin speaking on Firefighter Capurro's phone. Commissioners, Chief of the Department, thank you for hearing me. I'd just like to reiterate all the character references that everyone else has said about Firefighter Crow. He's a fine employee. I hope that you consider retaining him. Thank you for your time.
Okay, I've gone through all the hands that have recently been raised, and there's no other hands raised that have not been called.
All right. Given that, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment at this time. Let me just ask, Madam Court Reporter, are you prepared for me to take 5 to 6 minutes to go through some preliminary matters?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. I just want to double check with you because this is, I think, Firefighter Crow, where we had our technical difficulty. Were you able to hear me when I explained that you had the right to determine whether we proceeded in open session and closed session, and what the couple of exceptions may be to that? Were you able to hear that?
Yes, I was able to hear that.
All right. And do you wish to proceed in open session or closed session?
I wish to proceed in open session.
All right. And does the department have any response to that?
The department has no objection.
All right, we will proceed in open session. And the one thing that will occur when we finish all the evidence, is that the commission will be voting itself as to whether or not it will deliberate in open session or in closed session. And well, we can actually do that now. If there is a motion from any of the commissioners regarding open or closed session for deliberations. Is there
Yes,
a
I'd like to
motion?
make, yes,
Commissioner Morgan, thank you.
the President Feinstein. Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we deliberate in closed session.
All right, is there a second? I will second the motion.
I will do a roll call. Vice President Nacasio, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
To go into deliberate in closed session? And Commissioner Covington, how do you vote?
Yes.
The motion is unanimous.
All right, so we will deliberate in closed session. I'm going to just give an overview of the procedure for this hearing. Each party will present an opening statement. The department will give its opening statement first. And then afterwards, the member, that would be you, Firefighter Crow, will have the option of either giving your opening statement right then, or you can wait until the conclusion of the department's case and give your opening statement then at that time. And so I will ask you, following Ms. Stoughton's opening statement, which way you want to do it, and either way is fine with us, not a problem. The department will then present its evidentiary case, and you will be able to cross-examine any of their witnesses. When the department is done presenting its evidentiary case, we will turn to your case. And again, if you have not given opening statement, you can start your case with opening statement. And we will consider your evidence. Your witnesses can be cross-examined by Ms. Stoughton. So in other words, each party has the opportunity to cross-examine the other party's witnesses. Then, upon conclusion of the evidentiary portion, closing argument will be presented first by the department because they do bear the burden of proof. Then you are welcome to give your closing argument. And if the department has time remaining, the department can use it to give a rebuttal close, again, because they have the burden of proof. We have set aside, I'm looking back at my notes of our case management conference on February 23rd, 5 minutes for each opening statement, 20 minutes for the evidentiary portion, and then 5 minutes for closing argument. I will afford the commissioners the opportunity to ask any of the witnesses questions that they may have, and that will not count against either, your time, just because the commissioners have questions to be asked.
You've actually granted extra time to the member.
I did, you're right. I'm sorry, I apologize. You're correct. I did.
So they get 10 minutes for opening, 60 minutes for evidentiary, and 10 minutes for closing.
Okay, my apologies. That you are correct, and that's my error. I apologize. So those will be the time limits. Trying to think of what else. If at any time throughout the hearing a party has an objection to a question that is asked, you should state your objection and the basis for the objection. I will rule on the objection. If I sustain it, the witness will not answer the question. If I overrule it, the witness will answer the question. I'm going to ask if the parties need to take a recess at any time, please let me know. I ask that you do so not in the middle of a witness's testimony. It can be in between direct examination and cross-examination, but I want to, it just really interrupts the flow. So time your request for recesses so that we can have a good flow of testimony. Also, I want to be mindful, as I've said now 3 times at least, that we do have a court reporter, and out of respect to her, I will be giving her a break every hour and 15 minutes to every hour and a half. But Madam Court Reporter, if you feel you need a break at whatever time, please let me know that. Are there any other preliminary motions before we take the member's plea? Yes, Firefighter Crow, yes.
Yes, sorry, thank you. I would like to bring up, I had filed a last minute emergency appeal of the suspension based on some new documentation that was found, specifically a general order from 2008 that outlined how the fire department would enact and incorporate the Firefighter Bill of Rights into suspension and proceedings moving forward. I believe it was Maureen confirmed the receipt of the appeal. I just want to make sure did you receive that or review that?
We have, Ms. Stoughton, did you have a response? Are you with me, Ms. Stoughton?
I'm here. I mean, the city's response would be that the time to file motions has passed. And also that there's nothing in here that would change the hearing going forward today.
I tend to agree with you, and I think that we should consider the motion at the time of our deliberations. That's my inclination and ruling. Yes, Miss.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. The squares keep jumping around, so you all keep reappearing in different places. I'm sorry I didn't see your hand up, Firefighter Crow.
And I'm sorry, just to try to understand the ruling, you want to review this information before deliberation?
That it will be the first portion of our deliberations, yes.
So we will not be discussing it before then? Is that?
Well, it doesn't, at this point, all the members of the commission have received it. As you know, we don't discuss matters, behind people's back. contrary to what some may think. We're not permitted to do that. And so that will be our first opportunity to consider the merits of the motion.
And can I just mention one point from that,
Sure.
please? In the notice from the department from October, let's see, October 15th, that cites City Charter 8341. Within there, that states that I am supposed to be offered the option to appeal my suspension in writing. I never received that option. So therefore, I was never offered the opportunity to even appeal the suspension of unpaid leave.
All right.
So I think it's a pretty significant appeal that I think should be heard prior to the completion of this hearing, whether we do it in a case management conference right now or however we move forward with that.
So the October 15th notice of non-disciplinary separation also informed Firefighter Crow that he would be put on unpaid administrative leave after the conclusion of his administrative meeting with the chief. He was given the opportunity at the administrative meeting to present any evidence or statements or arguments that he wanted against the unpaid leave. That was his opportunity to do that. He had that opportunity, he took it. The chief moved forward with the imposition of the unpaid leave consistent with the charter and the agreement with Local 798. And his administrative appeal is this process here. And so there has been no violation of any either FOBAR or due process rights. The October 15th, 2021 letter was his effect Skelly notice for the unpaid leave. He thereafter had a Skelly meeting that we call an administrative meeting. And so all due process requirements were complied with. FOBAR only applies for an administrative appeal, and that is why we are here today.
All
Again,
right.
I'd also like, can I counter that response?
Of course.
Again, in the department actually misstates the definition of 341 in that notice from October 15th. Once again, it also states that I will be notified in writing of my right to appeal. I did not receive that notice and did not even know there was the option to appeal. So that is pretty significant. In terms of the Firefighters Bill of Rights, which is California state law, no punitive action can be taken prior to the administrative hearing. And punitive action was taken after the administrative hearing. So we have quite a few discrepancies here, and especially within the charter codes that are referenced.
So again, FOBRA only applies, permits administrative appeal from the imposition of any discipline. It does not apply before, it doesn't have to happen before the discipline happens. The case law is clear that the discipline itself can happen and can go forward and can be imposed as long as the employee thereafter has the process for an administrative appeal. The October 15th letter again lays out the plan to place Firefighter Crow on unpaid leave and his options for what to do with it. So again, there's no due process issue. Due process was complied with the October 15th, 2021 letter, as well as the Skelly meeting, and there is no FOBRA issue.
And I believe you're right now, this isn't properly before the commission. So we're going to move forward with the with the hearing. and then you have all your appeal rights but thereafter. So, I'm sorry, yes.
I apologize, President Feinstein, for interrupting you. Sorry, my fault.
Nope, no problem. Anything more that you wish to ask? And I would make note, this is a non-disciplinary separation hearing, not a disciplinary hearing.
And President Feinstein also cited as 344, which is for disciplinary charges, and I'm not being brought up on disciplinary charges. So that charter code that is being cited does not apply to my case and my what I'm being charged with.
Understood. Thank you. All right. We at this point will move forward. And I'm just trying to see if there's anything else. Under Rule 11A of the procedural rules, Firefighter Crow, I need to ask you to enter a plea. And this is the question. Do you agree or disagree with the chief's stated reasons for requesting your dismissal?
I disagree.
All right, that is noted. Thank you. Okay, let's get started with opening statements, and the department shall proceed first.
Good morning, everyone. The question before the Fire Commission is whether to uphold the chief's recommendation for a non-disciplinary separation for firefighter Ryan Crow for his failure to comply with the vaccination requirement of the city's health order, as well as General Order 21A-70. The health order was issued by the city's health officer to address the public health emergency that arose during the COVID-19 pandemic. Together, the health order and general order require employees such as Firefighter Crow who may enter or work in high-risk settings to be fully vaccinated by October 13th, 2021, unless they received an approved exemption due to a disability or a sincerely held religious belief. Personal belief exemptions were not permitted under the health order. The health order cautioned that there were some instances where an unvaccinated employee could not continue to work in a high-risk setting, even if they otherwise qualified for an exemption, and could be masked at all times and undergo weekly testing. Those were the minimum safeguards that the health order required for unvaccinated employees who work in high-risk settings. The health order laid out factors that employers should consider when analyzing whether unvaccinated employees working in high-risk settings can be safely accommodated. The first one was whether the unvaccinated employee will place other people at risk of transmission of COVID-19 because they are required to come into contact, including on an emergency basis, with other personnel or with persons whose vaccination status is unknown, who are not yet eligible for the vaccine, or who are members of a vulnerable population. And the examples given were elderly, incarcerated people, and acute care patients. Another factor laid out in the health order was whether the government entity can ensure compliance with the mask mandate whenever the unvaccinated employee is around other people in the workplace. And a third factor laid out in the health order was whether the proposed accommodation imposes an undue burden because it is costly, it infringes on other employees' job rights or benefits, it compromises workplace safety, it decreases workplace efficiency, or it requires other employees to do more than their share of potentially hazardous or burdensome work. Under those guidelines from the health order, the chief of the department determined that even if an employee could establish that they had a sincerely held religious belief or a qualifying disability that prevented them from getting the COVID vaccine, the department could not accommodate them because of the heightened risk to the public that they serve, as well as to other city and department employees. The facts before the Fire Commission today are undisputed. The health order and general order requires firefighter Crow to be vaccinated unless he has a valid exemption. Firefighter Crow was not granted an exemption. Firefighter Crow was not fully vaccinated, as that is defined in the health order, by October 13th, 2021. It is undisputed then that Firefighter Crow did not comply with the health order or General Order 21A-70. The validity of the health order is not at issue in this proceedings, and it speaks for itself. The health officer issued the order pursuant to the authority and mandates in the California Health and Safety Code. Neither the San Francisco Fire Department nor the Fire Commission have the jurisdiction or authority to overrule or change the health order's mandate. The health order clearly sets forth the definition of fully vaccinated. It sets forth the definition of what is a high-risk setting. And it states that employees who work in these high-risk settings must be fully vaccinated absent an approved exemption. It also clearly sets forth the parameters of when employers may not be able to accommodate unvaccinated employees. Firefighter Crow's disagreement with the science and public policy underlying the health officer's order are beyond the jurisdiction of the Fire Commission to adjudicate. Despite being aware of his obligation to comply with the health order and the general order and the consequences of not being vaccinated, Firefighter Crow made the personal decision to remain unvaccinated. The Fire Commission should uphold the chief's recommendation of a non-disciplinary separation to ensure department compliance with the health order and to protect the health and safety of the public and the city's workforce. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stoughton. And now Firefighter Crow, let me ask whether you wish to give your opening statement at this time or you wish to reserve until completion of the department's case and present your opening statement at that time.
I would like to give my opening statement now.
All right, please proceed.
Okay. I will start by saying I do not want to lose my job. I love my career. I love working in this city. I love serving the citizens and the visitors of this city. And I love the people I work with. Since I can remember, this profession has been my dream. I worked hard to get to where I am today. I've been a firefighter for 20 years, and this includes 16 professionally. At 16 years old, I volunteered in my hometown fire department. And at 18, I was the fire department's first paid firefighter. At 20 years old, I was hired with the City of Davis Fire Department, where I worked for 9 years. My dream was to work for the City of San Francisco, and years after I applied, I was finally offered a position. We just closed out Women's History Month, and I'd like to share some stories about the strong women in my family and how they fought not only for women's rights, but fought discrimination against minority groups across San Francisco. My family history runs deep in San Francisco, both culturally and politically. My great-great-grandparents, William and Tilly Clifford, owned a laundry delivery service in the early 1900s. Disgusted with how Chinese immigrant laundry workers were treated in other establishments, my great-great-grandmother formed the local laundry workers union and acted as a secretary-treasurer. She took her fight for equal rights of two different minority groups, women and Chinese immigrants, all the way to Washington, D.C. She also fought hard for women's right to vote during the suffrage movement. She was even arrested for striking a cop with her picket sign at a rally in San Francisco after the police officer told her to go home and get in the kitchen where she belongs. She also drove an ambulance for the Army in the city during World War II while her son was deployed. My great-great-grandmother fought for minority groups' rights her entire life. Her relentless fight against discrimination helped give women the opportunity to serve in high-ranking positions in the city today. My mom is a fifth-generation San Franciscan. She served as a volunteer firefighter and has worked in the medical field for over 40 years. 6 generations of my family served their communities and the community of San Francisco. For generations, my family has been morally compelled to stand up for freedom, against discrimination, and to fight for what is right without care or judgment from others. My cousin, Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead, was one of the most iconic figures in the 60s and 70s. A period filled with peace, love, and without discrimination of any sort. He helped shape San Francisco into one of the most inclusive and diverse cities in the entire world. I often wonder what he would say if he could see what his city is currently doing, not only to his family, but to a minority group of this community. My grandfather was a San Francisco firefighter for 30 years. I'm so proud to carry on his legacy. And to have his badge number on my San Francisco department badge is something I could have only dreamed of. I served this city with honor, pride, and dedication for 7 years. I worked during the first year and a half of this pandemic at one of the busiest engines in the city, Engine 36. I willingly, without regard for myself or family, came to work in support of our mission to protect and serve the citizens of San Francisco. I followed our PPE guidelines and came in contact with COVID positive patients on a regular basis. I also came in contact with firefighters that had contracted COVID, and I did not get sick. In Ms. Stoughton's pre-hearing statement, she cited the term direct threat from the EEOC guidelines for accommodating employees. There's zero evidence that I'm a direct threat to the health and safety of the public. According to Title III of the U.S. Civil Rights Act, paragraph B states, direct threat means a significant risk to the health and safety of others that cannot be eliminated by a modification of policies, practices, or procedures, or by the provision of auxiliary aids or services. I'll summarize paragraph C. When determining if I am a direct threat, the department must make an individualized assessment based on current medical knowledge to make sure that the severity of the risk, the probability that the potential injury will actually occur, and whether or not the department can mitigate the risk by reasonably modifying policies, practices, and procedures. There is no medical evidence that I am a threat to the health and safety of the public, my coworkers, or myself. There's not one documented case of a firefighter, paramedic, or EMT transmitting COVID to a patient. As the chief has stated many times, our PPE works. Testing also works. Most agencies surrounding San Francisco have a policy in place for unvaccinated firefighters. And agencies with strict policies in place are rapidly backtracking on vax or terminate policies. Our health order also offers the ability to accommodate unvaccinated firefighters and to do so safely. I filed for a religious exemption for my sincerely held religious beliefs, and that was denied. During this hearing, I'll be reserving my questions and testimony in regards to the exemption process for civil court. My family and I have experienced a tremendous amount of stress during this process. I know my 2-year-old boy can feel the emotional stress on a daily basis. The department placed me on leave while my wife was 8 months pregnant with our second child. In an effort to protect my wife's health and the health of our unborn baby girl, my wife's doctor had to place her off work weeks sooner than anticipated due to severe anxiety and stress. I've not been able to get a full night's sleep in months, and my mind is constantly racing as I try to figure out the next steps for my family. I'm being considered a threat based on a hypothetical situation, but the only people who have caused any real harm are the policymakers and executors of the vaccine policy in this city and the fire department. The most important order is the order of the health officer of the city and county of San Francisco. This order was first released on June 11, 2021, and updated 2 or 3 times a month, each month through October 13, 2021. The fire department required compliance with the order. The fire department is relying upon the language of the order to terminate me from my career. The fire department misunderstands the order being relied upon. The language of the order cannot be used to terminate me. Why is that? The clear intent of the health order C19-07Y updated was to, I quote, protect the community from COVID-19 and increase the vaccination rates to reduce the transmission of COVID-19 long-term, so that the whole community is safer and the COVID-19 health emergency can come to an end. In addition, the health order must be interpreted to achieve the purposes and intent of the order. We now know the vaccination does not protect the community from COVID-19 because the vaccine does not prevent the spread. This was made clear when in October 2021, unvaccinated firefighters were placed on leave, and in December 2021, a 100% vaccinated fire department experienced a massive outbreak of COVID-19. The outbreak spread like wildfire through the fire department to the point it had to brown out an engine company for the day. So unjustly placing unvaccinated firefighters on leave led to a decrease in staffing. The department then had to close an emergency vehicle for an entire day, in turn reducing the protection for the citizens that fire station serves. Does that sound like the department is making a public health and safety a priority? In fact, is that both vaccinated and unvaccinated can spread COVID-19. Therefore, requiring me to get vaccinated will not serve the intent nor the purpose of the order. I am, and I've always been ready to comply with the requirements of the health order. Fortunately, the health order includes a definition as to what constitutes being fully vaccinated. It states, fully vaccinated and full vaccination means 2 weeks after completing the entire recommended series of vaccination, usually 1 or 2 doses, with a vaccine authorized to prevent COVID-19. I've reviewed other health orders across the country, and not one of them has a definition that states a vaccine authorized to prevent COVID. There's not, and there's never been a vaccine that prevents COVID-19. The health order is impossible to comply with because its intent is not served, but rather undermined by its vaccination requirements. People who are vaccinated still become infected with COVID-19. Since it's impossible to get a vaccine that prevents the spread of COVID, one's vaccination status will make no difference in protecting the community. We're here today because, as a condition of employment, the department requires I get vaccinated to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Fact is that per the health order, I am not required to take a COVID-19 vaccine because there is not one available that prevents the spread. It is wrong and unjust to terminate me because I have not yet done what is not yet possible to do. I am complying with the health order, and my termination should be off the table. I'm sure the department wishes the language of the health order was different, but the department's wishes don't translate into a right to take away the profession I've worked my entire life for, to upend my livelihood, the livelihood of my family, and to end my career with the fire department I always dreamed of working for. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I know that there's some scheduling issues, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn to Ms. Stoughton because the city presents their case first, the department, and ask you to please call your first witness.
Thank you. The department calls Chief Nicholson.
Greetings, everyone.
All right, Madam Court Reporter, if you would kindly swear the chief.
Chief Nicholson, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chief. Can you state and spell your name for the record, please?
Janine Nicholson, Jeanine Nichholson.
And can you tell us what your current job title is?
I'm the chief of the San Francisco Fire Department.
And just quickly an overview of what your duties are as chief of the department.
I oversee the operations and the administration and in the fire department and carry out our mission.
Chief, can you turn to City Exhibit 1, Bates number Pro 0007?
Yes, I see it.
Do you recognize this document?
I do. It is the health order from the health officer regarding COVID-19 vax coverage.
And did you review this health order in your position as the chief of the department?
Yes, I have reviewed it.
And what did you understand the department's obligations to be under the health order?
That all of our members had to be fully vaccinated, which meant prior to October 13th, 2 weeks prior to October 13th, they had to have had their final shot of Pfizer or Moderna, or their first shot of Johnson & Johnson.
Is the department obligated to comply with the health order?
Yes, we are.
Is the department able to ignore any provision of the health order?
No, we are not.
Chief, did the health order define what it means to be fully vaccinated?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So still looking at City Exhibit 1, if you can turn to Bates number 0009. And I'll have you look at subsection K.
I see it.
Is this the definition of fully vaccinated that the department relied on?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Does the definition of fully vaccinated include vaccines granted emergency use authorization by the FDA?
Yes, it does.
Does it include vaccines granted emergency use authorization by the World Health Officer?
The World Health Organization, yes.
Thank you. Does the health order provide a link to the FDA website that lists these FDA authorized vaccines?
Yes, it does.
Does the health order provide a link to the WHO website that links the WHO approved vaccines?
Yes, it does.
Does the health order state that the FDA has granted full approval for the Pfizer vaccine effective August 20th, 2021?
Yeah, it says August 23rd, 2021. Yes, that's correct.
Great. Did the department rely on the health order's definition of fully vaccinated to determine what it meant for its employees to be fully vaccinated?
Yes, we did.
Did the health order mandate certain rules for employees in quote high-risk settings?
Yes, it spelled out a minimum of things that we had to follow.
Okay, Chief, still looking at City Exhibit 1. Ask you to turn to Bates number 0018.
I see it.
Okay, looking at subsection 6 here, it says vaccination requirements for personnel in high-risk settings and other healthcare personnel. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. Is this the provision you relied on to determine the requirements for firefighters such as Firefighter Crow?
It is.
Okay. And can you tell us real quick what a high-risk setting is?
Yeah, I mean, it spells it out in here, but it could be a hospital, it could be a nursing home, it could be a congregate shelter. So there are numerous things that we would have to enter on a regular basis as firefighters.
And Chief, real quick, can we turn to still at City Exhibit 1, base number 0010?
Yes, I see it.
And looking at subsection M here, it's entitled high-risk settings.
That is the definition that we used for high-risk settings.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Did you determine that Firefighter Crow fell under the definition of an employee who works in a high-risk setting?
Yes.
And why is that?
Because we have to enter each and every one of these places, and we don't know when we're going to have to enter it.
Is there any way the department could guarantee that a firefighter not enter a high-risk setting as defined in the health order?
No, there's not.
In your view as chief of the department, would it endanger department operations if you had to assign firefighters to emergencies based on their vaccination status?
That's correct.
And why is that?
We have to show up with a full cadre of people, whether we show up for a medical call or a fire. I can't leave people outside or behind because of their vaccination status, number one. And you know, it would impact our operations.
In your view as chief of the department, can Firefighter Crow perform the essential functions of his position if he's not permitted to enter high-risk settings?
No, he cannot.
Did the health order permit exemptions to this vaccination requirement?
Yes, based on disability or a sincerely held religious belief.
Did the health order contain guidance about accommodating unvaccinated employees in high-risk settings, even if they qualified for an exemption?
Yes, it did.
Okay, Chief, now I'm going to have you turn back to still at City Exhibit 1, now to base number 0019.
I see it.
Okay, and before we get to that, did the health order set a minimum safety requirement for unvaccinated employees who received an exemption?
Yes.
And what was that?
Masking and testing, and I can't remember all the language of it, but it is spelled out in here.
Okay. And did the, you testified earlier about the health order providing guidance on how to accommodate or when to accommodate employees. Looking here at subsection A at the bottom of the page.
Okay. I can
Is,
see it.
and turning to the next page, we see subsection B, C, and D.
Yes.
Is this the guidance from the health order that you relied on in determining whether you could accommodate firefighters in high-risk settings?
Yes, it is.
For a possible rape case.
Did you ultimately determine whether the department could accommodate unvaccinated employees?
Yes, I determined we could not due to the high risk congregate setting and not being able to comply with mask mandate 24/7 and the like.
Okay. And did you rely on these factors here on Bates number pages 0019 and 00220 to reach that conclusion?
Yes.
Okay. Are firefighters such as Firefighter Crow required to come into contact with persons whose vaccination status is unknown?
Yes.
Are they required to come into contact with persons who are not yet eligible for the vaccine?
Yes.
Are they required to come into contact with members of vulnerable populations?
Yes.
Okay. And you talked about this a little bit earlier, but could the department ensure compliance with the mask mandate whenever the employees are around other people in the workplace?
No, we cannot.
And why is that?
It's really hard to wear a mask 24/7 because you're around people, those you work with 24/7 when you are at work. And it's impossible to comply with the 24/7 mask mandate.
Chief, do firefighters such as Firefighter Crow sleep in the fire stations?
Yes.
Okay. And can you describe for us what those sleeping arrangements are generally like?
Yeah, it may vary from station to station, but there is a dormitory room that is has twin beds in it, and a lot of them in it, and there are partitions between some of the beds, but partitions that are like 4 feet tall, and there could be dozens of beds in there, and there are other people sleeping in the same space as you.
Do you believe that a firefighter would be able to wear a mask at all times while they slept?
No,
Do firefighters eat in the station house?
they do.
Do they typically eat together with their coworkers?
Yes.
Do firefighters shower in the station house?
They do.
Okay. Chief, did you have any role in analyzing whether a firefighter had a sincerely held religious belief or a disability that prevented them from being vaccinated?
I had no role in that.
Okay. Chief, if you can now turn to Bates number 0043. We are still in City Exhibit 1.
I see it, and it is the general order that I signed in August of 2021 regarding our COVID-19 vaccination policy.
And Chief, looking at Bates number 0045, is that your signature on the bottom there?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Are employees required to comply with the general order?
Yes, they are.
Are employees required to be familiar with general orders?
Yes, they are.
And can you sort of describe for us how general orders are disseminated?
General orders are disseminated in multiple ways, certainly down the chain of command, word of mouth, also in paper copies. It is also emailed to every station. It is sent to every individual on their Human Resources tab in their own Human Resources page, and they are required to read it and confirm that they read and understand it. And we also, for this in particular, we also sent letters to people who were not vaccination compliant. And we also made phone calls to them. And we also brought individuals in to meet with a member of the administration here regarding their vaccination status. So there was a multitude of ways that we reached out to all of our members.
Chief, turning back to just the general order here on Bates numbers 0043 through 0045. What rank is Firefighter Crow?
He is an H2 firefighter.
Okay, and did this general order apply to him?
Yes, it did. You can see on Bates 0044, all members in the following ranks. H2 is included in that.
And so did this general order require Firefighter Crow to be vaccinated consistent with the health orders requirement?
Yes, it did.
To your knowledge, did Firefighter Crow comply with this general order?
He did not.
And you talked about a little bit earlier in your prior answer, but did the department take any other steps to notify employees of their obligation to comply with the health order and the general order?
Yes, we made phone calls and we had face-to-face meetings with them as well.
Chief, now turning to still in City Exhibit 4, it's Bates number 0004.
Zero 0004 is an October 8th letter that was sent to Firefighter Crow regarding his vaccination status and what might happen if he chose to not be vaccinated.
Okay. And did this letter notify Firefighter Crow that if he did not become vaccinated, he would be subject to a non-disciplinary separation?
That's correct.
Okay. And is this your signature on the bottom of this document?
It is.
Chief, did Firefighter Crow comply with the health orders vaccination requirement by October 13th, 2021?
He did not.
Okay. And how do you know that?
We run a report. My Human Resources Department can run a report that shows who is and is not vaccinated.
Okay. Chief, now turning still in City Exhibit 1, turning to Bates number 0005. Do you recognize this document?
I do. It is a letter I sent on October 15th to Firefighter Crow, telling him that, this is a notice of a non-disciplinary separation. And below in the rectangular, it shows that Ryan Crow, H2, is not vaccinated.
Okay, and earlier you talked about the people and pay system. These rectangular box on Bates number 0005, are those from the people and pay system?
Yes, and that is where the report is run by our human resources in the people and pay system.
Okay, and were firefighters such as Firefighter Crow obligated to report their vaccination status?
Yes, and he did.
Okay, and I see in the box here, it says not vaccinated. Does that mean that Firefighter Crow reported that he was not vaccinated?
That's correct.
Chief, turning to still the same letter, just to the next page, 0006. Did this letter provide notice to Firefighter Crow that he would be placed on unpaid leave after the administrative meeting?
That's correct.
And now turning, Chief, to City Exhibit 3. which is Bates number 0117 and 0118.
I see it, and this is the agreement that was made with the city's Department of Human Resources and Local 798 in terms of vaccination requirements
Okay, and
for members of the San Francisco Fire Department.
did this agreement set forth the process for how the fire department would handle employees who chose not to be vaccinated by October 13th, 2021?
Yes, it did.
Okay. And did the department comply with this agreement and how it processed those employees?
Yes, we have.
Did you offer Firefighter Crow an administrative meeting?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did he attend that administrative meeting?
Yes.
Was he permitted to speak to the charges against him?
Yes, he was.
Was he permitted to submit any documentation he wanted to support his position?
Yes.
Okay. Did you attend that hearing?
Yes.
Following that hearing, did you place Firefighter Crow on unpaid leave?
Yes.
And was that consistent with the agreement with Local 798?
Yes, it was.
I have no more questions for this witness.
Thank you very much. Cross-examination. And that means you, Firefighter Crow. Any questions for the chief, please?
Thank you. Yes. Hello, Chief. Thank you for being here today.
Hello, Firefighter Crow, Ryan.
All right. Chief, why are we here today?
We are here because you failed to follow the city's health order and the department's general order.
Okay. As the fire chief, do you have the ability to rescind general orders?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Chief, did you author my separation letter dated November 3rd, 2021?
Yes.
Did you contact any person or organization for input when authoring that letter?
I'm going to object to the extent this is asked for attorney-client privileged information.
Well, let's have the chief, wait, let me rule on it. Let us ask the chief if she did consult with the city attorneys, and then, of course, beyond that, anything would be privileged.
Yes, I did consult with the city attorney.
And was it only the city attorneys, or did you consult with anyone else?
Throughout the course of this, yes, I've consulted with other departments, other members of other departments, as well as my own human resources department.
Okay, do you have specific names of who you spoke with when authoring the notice?
So over the past, I don't know how many months, who have I spoken to? I have spoken to different members of the Department of Public Health and different members of the Department of Human Resources, such as Artis Graham and Carol Eisen. I don't want to misspeak about Department of Public Health, but I mean, I have had conversations with Grant Colfax. I've had conversations with Naveen Aboba and Susan Phillips, but not really long conversations, but I've been in meetings with them.
Thank you. Is it true you relied only on the language reflected in the order of the health officer and in General Order 21A70 when you created that letter?
That is what I relied on, yes.
Thank you. Did you contact the person who wrote the order, the health officer?
Again, I have spoken to them and been in meetings with them.
Did you at all want to call the author of the health order to ask what the terms in the order actually meant?
No, I had it explained to me, and I read it and understood it.
Did you read General Order 21A70 and the health order before writing your letter?
Yes.
And was there any part of those documents that you did not understand?
I'm sure there was, and it was explained to me if there was something I didn't understand. I don't recall what it was, though.
When you wrote the letter on November 3rd, 2021, did you know what it meant to be fully vaccinated?
Yes, I did. Is this
And
an
what's
exhibit? Is this an exhibit that you want me to look at, or?
Not yet, no. What is your definition of fully vaccinated?
I'm going to object to relevance here. The only thing relevant is the health order's definition of fully vaccinated.
Okay, perfect. Do you mind turning to, oh, sorry, go ahead, President, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I was going to overrule the objection and allow her to answer.
Thank you.
Sorry, Ryan, can you ask the question again?
Yeah, what is your definition of fully vaccinated?
So it's based on the health order, and it is, as I stated earlier, I believe in my testimony, that you had to have your final dose of the vaccines that were available to us 2 weeks prior to October 13th, 2021.
And okay, can you please turn to my exhibits, Exhibit A?
Okay,
Sorry for the big binder.
that's
Let's
all right.
see.
What page?
It's gonna be Bates 003.
The order
And-
of the health officer, that 003, yes.
Yes, correct. Can you please read letter K, the definition of fully vaccinated? And you can stop at the World Health Organization.
Okay. Fully vaccinated and full vaccination mean 2 weeks after completing the entire recommended series of vaccination, usually 1 or 2 doses, with a vaccine authorized to prevent COVID-19 by the FDA, including by way of an emergency use authorization or by the World Health Organization.
Thank you. And at the time you signed the November 3rd letter, were you aware that people who had received the available COVID-19 vaccines were becoming infected with COVID-19?
Probably so.
Okay. Can you please turn to Exhibit A? Again, Bates 006.
Okay.
And can you please read Section 2, Paragraph B, intent?
The primary intent of this order is to continue to protect the community from COVID-19 and to also increase vaccination rates to reduce transmission of COVID-19 long-term so that the whole community is safer and the COVID-19 health emergency can come to an end.
Thank you. And do you see right there, Section C, where it says interpretation? All provisions of this order must be interpreted to effectuate the purposes and intent of this order as described above.
Yes, I see that.
Thank you. Are you aware that there is no COVID-19 vaccine currently available that can prevent the spread of COVID-19 in our community?
So I'm not a physician, and but what I know is that just because it may not prevent it in some people doesn't mean that it prevents it. It does prevent it in others. So, but again, I'm not a physician.
But based on that answer, fully vaccinated people are able to transmit COVID and spread the disease, correct?
That's what I understand.
Thank you. Let's see, did you become infected with COVID-19 after receiving the original vaccine and the booster shot?
I did, yes. I can't remember the date of my booster shot, but yes, I did.
All right. Isn't it true that it would be impossible for me to follow the order by getting vaccinated if getting vaccinated does not prevent transmission and in turn does not protect our community?
So that's a little confusing. Can you read that again, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Isn't it true that it would be impossible for me to follow the order by getting vaccinated if getting vaccinated does not prevent transmission and in turn does not protect the community?
So I'm just going to object. The chief can answer. I'm just going to object that it lacks foundation and calls for speculation, but the chief can answer.
I'm gonna just insert myself. I don't understand the question. So if you could perhaps break it down into two separate questions, I might understand it better, Firefighter Crow.
Would I be able to follow the health order by getting vaccinated if the vaccine doesn't prevent transmission?
I don't even know how to answer that because I believe that it does prevent some transmission. And with the rate of how contagious the last COVID variant was, and how contagious that was, I think we did really well in not having everyone get sick. So I do believe that vaccination does help to prevent COVID-19. Does it completely prevent it? No, it looks like it does not, but does it prevent it in some people? I imagine it does, yes.
Okay. Chief, are you familiar with Cal OSHA Title 8 regulations, specifically Section 3205, COVID-19 prevention?
No, I'd have to have it in front of me.
Well, are you aware in this section 3205, it says employers shall treat all persons, regardless of symptoms or negative COVID-19 test, as potentially infectious.
I don't have it in front of me, Ryan, so I'm not sure what you're reading or what you're asking me because I don't have it in front of me. Is it one of your exhibits?
No, it is not.
Okay.
Chief, does the fire department have a mask policy currently in place?
We do have a mask policy in place, yes.
And how do you ensure that policy is followed?
So the mask policy that is in place currently is enforced by officers and battalion chiefs, and they are to ensure that everyone wears a mask when going into a medical scene.
Thank you. And why wouldn't your officers be able to make sure their unvaccinated firefighters comply with the policy?
Because while we live in a congregate setting, it's really hard to see if someone is wearing a mask 24/7. which is what the policy would be for someone who is, what the policy is for someone who is unvaccinated.
And I know you've covered this before, but in the health order, does it allow for unvaccinated firefighters to remove their masks when showering, eating, and sleeping?
That is the absolute minimum that it permits, but it does not permit us because we are in a congregate living setting, from being more strict than that.
And do you trust that you trust your officers to ensure that all safety policies and procedures are complied with?
I trust that my deputy chief of operations is managing that. Yes.
Do you trust unvaccinated employees?
I'm gonna object to relevance. Trust them for what?
I'm going to sustain the objection.
Can I rephrase?
You may rephrase.
Chief, do you trust that your unvaccinated employees would be able to follow the mask policy?
I have no way of showing that they could follow the mask policy.
All right. In December 2021, the department implemented a rapid testing program for a 100% vaccinated department. Is that correct?
When was that?
In December of 2021, on or about?
Yeah, I know we've been testing people for a while. I just don't remember the date. But
And why was
people
that?
have been vaccinated? Have we been testing? Yes, we have, Ryan.
Thank you. And so why was that testing program implemented?
To ensure that if our members were carrying COVID or were sick with COVID, that they would quarantine.
So it was implemented because the vaccinated can contract and spread COVID, correct?
It was implemented for the health and safety of our members.
And I'm sorry, I'm going to ask the question one more time. It was implemented because vaccinated can contract and spread COVID-19, correct?
Yeah, I'm sure that was taken into account, but everything yeah, it's for the health and safety of our employees.
Thank you. If an unvaccinated firefighter tested negative for COVID-19 prior to their shift and continued to follow the department's mask policy, would they be considered a threat to employees and coworkers?
So I don't know. I don't know. And I do not believe that we could follow a 24/7 mask policy.
Chief, is there any documented cases of a firefighter, EMT, or paramedic transmitting COVID to a member of the public?
I don't have any information on that.
I have not seen any documented cases of that. Let's see. Is there any documented cases of an unvaccinated firefighter who tested negative for COVID prior to their shift and then transmitted COVID to the public or coworkers?
I have no information on that either, Ryan.
With the testing and masking program already in place, would you consider it an undue hardship for the department to test unvaccinated firefighters?
So I believe that logistically, it could be very problematic, yes.
I'm sorry, can you elaborate?
So we have 45 stations. Where are people going to go to get tested? When do we get the results of that test? And how do we manage that at 45 different stations? Because I don't know who's being detailed where. You know, we also know that COVID isn't over yet. So there may be more to come in the future.
And when making that determination, or prior to making that determination, did you ever consult with other fire departments of our size that have a testing program in place to find out, you know, what those logistic issues could be and how could they be resolved?
I consulted with my staff, including our physician, and with, as I said, other departments within the city.
I understand that. Did you contact any other fire departments that are similar size that have a policy in place? Because I'm different departments, you know, I'm looking for fire department comparison.
Yeah, I did not, but my staff may have.
And did they give you a report on that assessment?
Not that I recall.
Thank you. The health order, as it is written, requires me to get a vaccine that prevents the spread of COVID-19. But there is no vaccine currently available that does prevent the spread. So how can you recommend me for separation based on a health order and a general order that is impossible for me to comply with?
So I'm going to object that it lacks foundation because he's misreading the definition of fully vaccinated. So if he wants to read the whole definition of fully vaccinated and re-ask his question, we won't have any objection.
All right, I'm going to sustain that objection, and you can do that, Firefighter Crow.
Okay, I'll read the definition.
Read slowly, please. Read slowly, please.
And Ms. Stoughton, you'd like me to read the entire definition? Is that correct?
Yes, please.
Okay. Fully vaccinated, full vaccination definition. Fully vaccinated. And full vaccination mean 2 weeks after completing the entire recommended series of vaccination, usually 1 or 2 doses, with a vaccine authorized to prevent COVID-19 by the FDA, including by way of an emergency use authorization or by the World Health Organization. For example, as of the date of issuance of this order, an individual would be fully vaccinated at least 2 weeks after receiving a second dose of the Pfizer-BioNTech Comirnaty or Moderna COVID-19 vaccine, or 2 weeks after receiving the single-dose Johnson & Johnson Janssen COVID-19 vaccine. A list of FDA-authorized vaccines is available at www.fda.gov/emergency preparedness and response, and the rest of the address. Do you need me to specifically read that?
No.
Okay, thank you. A list of World Health Organization authorized vaccines is available at the address listed. On August 23rd, 2021, the FDA granted full approval of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine for people age 16 and older. So, let's see. So back to the question. The health order, as it is written, requires me to get a vaccine that prevents the spread of COVID-19. But there's no vaccine currently available that does prevent the spread. So how can one recommend me for separation based on a health order and a general order that is impossible for me to comply with?
Again, I'm going to object that it lacks foundation because he's misquoting. It says a vaccine authorized to prevent COVID-19. It does not read a vaccine that prevents COVID-19.
That objection is sustained.
Chief, is there a vaccine authorized to prevent COVID-19?
Again, I'm not a physician, so I don't know how to answer that question, but I do believe that many of our vaccinated people did not get COVID because they were vaccinated.
All right, Chief. Is there currently a booster mandate in place for the department?
There is.
And why is there a need for a booster?
Objection calls for speculation.
That's sustained.
Chief, you received your initial vaccination dose, correct?
I did, yes.
And what compelled you to get the booster?
Objection for relevance.
That's also sustained.
Chief, do you believe that the vaccine efficacy wanes over time?
Objection calls for medical opinion. She can give her lay opinion as a fire chief.
I agree she can give her lay opinion.
I did request an expert witness, but the ruling was not granted. So I'd just like to state that.
Sorry, Ryan, what's the question again?
Do you believe that vaccine efficacy wanes over time?
I believe that it may, yes.
Thank you.
Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist.
Do you know when the COVID vaccines were first offered to the SFFD employees?
I don't remember.
Did you work at the vaccination sites when they originally opened?
I volunteered there one day.
And do you recall that time period? Would you say it is on or about December 2020?
Yeah, somewhere in that winter. Yeah, I don't remember exactly. 2020, 2021, I'm not sure.
Thank you. So it's safe to say there are fire department employees currently working that received their original vaccines in December 2020, correct?
Yes.
And so that means there are fire department employees currently working and entering high-risk settings that received their vaccine over a year ago. Is that correct?
Yes.
And actually closer to 16 months, is that true?
I don't know. I don't remember the time frame, Ryan.
Okay. All right. So the current booster mandate was pushed to June 2022, correct?
Yes, it was.
And so that means when June 2022 comes around, that there will be active duty employees who are entering high-risk settings that have not received a COVID vaccine in over 18 months, correct?
Objection calls for speculation.
No, overruled.
So Ryan, what I can tell you is most of our members have received their booster. So there are very few that have not, and I don't know the time frame of those people when they got vaccinated. So is it possible? Sure, it's possible.
Okay, thank you. The booster mandate has been pushed out to June 2022, and the SFPD mandate has been dropped altogether. Do you believe those employees who received the original vaccine in December 2020 and have not received the booster shot are any more of a threat to the public and other coworkers than myself?
can you say that again, Ryan? Do I believe that folks that haven't had their last vaccination a year ago are more of a threat? Is that what you're?
Yes, so
Yeah, I don't believe that they are more of a threat, no.
thank you. Chief, you stated earlier that it is within your authority to rescind the general order. Will you consider rescinding the general order A70 since the order is impossible to comply with?
Objection lacks foundation.
Yeah, sustained.
Chief, since the vaccine doesn't prevent the spread, as required by both the health order and the general order, will you rescind your recommendation for my separation before the Fire Commission deliberates?
Again, objection lacks foundation.
Yeah, overruled.
So am I going to rescind my recommendation? I am not at this time, Ryan, no.
I have no further questions.
All right. Thank you very much. Is there any redirect, Ms. Stoughton?
There is not. The city would move, though, to have all of its exhibits entered into evidence.
All right. Any objection to the city's exhibits?
No objection.
All right. The city's exhibits 1, 2, and 3 will be admitted into evidence at this time. And since there is no redirect, the chief will be excused. And I think it's 12:40 now. This is a good time to take a lunch break. So if nobody, oh, I'm sorry, Vice President Nicasio. I'm sorry, sir, I didn't see your hand.
Not at all, Madam President. Before this witness, the chief is accused, I would like to take the prerogative of asking a question to the chief, please.
Commissioner Nicasio, I think the chief already got off, unfortunately. I know she had to run to court. Would you like me to text her to get her back on?
Yeah, if you can, I'd like to ask her one question or two. Forgive me, Madam
No,
I did not realize that the chief was going to be excused.
So I've texted her and called her, and she is not responding, unfortunately.
All right, well, we can go ahead and reopen her examination. I do know that and was informed late yesterday that there was a conflict, that there's apparently a matter at the Civic Center Courthouse that she's been is required to testify at, and the timing of it was bumpy. So this doesn't surprise me, but let's reserve the right to call her back out of order. And at this time, we will break for lunch. And I show that it's 12:43. Are people comfortable that they can have lunch and a moment to take a breath in 45 minutes? Is there any objection to that?
No objection.
Okay, I'm not seeing any objection. We will reconvene at 1:30 then. Thank you all very much.
I believe we're all back in session.
I believe you are correct. And the record should reflect that everybody who was previously present is again present. The chief who was present before, I assume Ms. Stoughton will be able to rejoin us at some point so that Vice President Nacasio can ask his questions, or if the other commissioners have questions, they'll have that opportunity. And hopefully she finishes up her testimony in whatever other matter it is not pertaining to these proceedings or related proceedings. So,
So
um,
Commissioner Feinstein, I finally did get a hold of her, but she was already in the car on her way to the courthouse. I understand that her testimony is likely to take all afternoon, so I don't know that there's a strong likelihood that she will be able to rejoin.
well, let me turn to Vice President Nacasio, please, and see what his feelings are about that.
I can understand the information that we just received about her not being able to return. I did have one question that I wanted to ask the chief. And depending on circumstances, I may or may not be able to ask that. So
Well, if I leave that to you. If we need to continue the matter to another day so that you can ask those questions, that in fairness is what we will do. I was aware that there was a conflict, but there were messages going back and forth yesterday all day about at what time she was going to have to testify. And it was left totally open, and not necessarily to my pleasure that we were being put into this situation, but I guess that's neither here nor there. Yeah, I'm willing to continue and have her come back. Obviously consulting with the city attorney and also the member and what his thoughts are. But let's see how far we get today.
understood.
All right. Okay, so the city is rested, correct?
Yes, correct.
And all exhibits were admitted without objection. And I believe, Firefighter Crow, we are turning to you, sir, for your first witness.
Yes, thank you. I actually will not be calling any witnesses today. Again, like I stated, I'll be reserving questions and testimony in relation to my religious exemption for civil court. But I would like to enter my exhibits into evidence.
Okay, I have your very well organized binder, I must say, in front of me, and have reviewed your exhibits. Let me just turn to the city to see if there is any objection to any of the exhibits.
No objection to entering them into evidence.
All right, now, just so I'm clear, I have exhibits A through I. Am I correct, Fighter Crow?
Yes, you are.
All right, then exhibits A through I inclusive are admitted into evidence.
Thank you.
All right, so, and do you have any further evidence you wish to offer, be it your own testimony, or you said you had no other witnesses? Exhibits are admitted. Anything else?
Can move to closing.
We can't do that until I have the chief back and have Vice President Nacasio ask his questions. and other commissioners may also have questions of the chief. So I think the best thing to do, and Mr. Russi, I'm open to your guidance here, would be to set another case management conference soon to see when we can reconvene this hearing to complete it.
I don't think we actually need to do a case management conference, but Maureen can reach out to the parties on a further date that works for everybody.
All right. I think that's fine. Is there any objection to that? Yes, Commissioner Covington. I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam President. I don't have an objection. I just need a clarification. Would we be reconvening for the one question?
Well, we'd be reconvening for any of the commissioners who may have questions for the chief.
All right. Do we have an estimate as to how long that might take to
Well,
reschedule and everything else?
I don't. That's sort of up to the collective group, whether they have questions or don't have questions, and whether they're follow-up questions. So, hopefully.
No, I didn't mean the duration of the the questioning, but I meant the scheduling.
I can't answer that. I think probably Maureen will put out, I presume, a doodle poll. Am I right, Madam Secretary?
Correct. I'll poll the commissioners and then
All
get a
right.
handful of dates. Vice President Nakajo has a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, Vice President.
Thank you. Did I cut you short, Commissioner Covington?
That's okay. If I have a follow-up, then I will ask it.
Yeah, for the sake of a timely process, because we've been just scheduling all these hearings as well as just focusing on today's with the member as well. I had a curiosity as to, am I the only commissioner that was going to ask the chief a question? But I think I can get some of my feel to my question by asking the member a question, if that's appropriate at this point.
All right. Do you have an objection, Firefighter Crow?
I would just like to state, I do think it's important if the commissioners have any questions that could be directed towards the chief in any way, that those be asked prior to deliberations, because I just want to make sure everyone.
They would
Yeah.
absolutely be done before the deliberations. The question is whether you're willing to answer a question from Vice President Nakajo.
Yes, I'm willing.
All right, then let us do that. I should, if you, Ms. Knowles, if you would kindly swear Firefighter Crow, and sir, if you'd please raise your right hand.
Mr. Crow, do you swear or affirm shall the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yep.
I'm sorry?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, Vice President Nakajo.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I did see Commissioner Morgan's hand up before I
Oh, I'm sorry.
asked the question to the member, and I don't know if that's pertinent to the questions, Commissioner Morgan.
Well, yeah, I was trying to respond to Vice President Nicasio. Myself, I can't speak for the other commissioners, but I didn't have any questions for the chief. I just wanted to note that for the record.
Thank you. All right. And Commissioner Covington, do you have any questions for the chief?
I did have just one, but I can hold it in abeyance. You know, I don't think it's critical.
All right. Okay, so let's get our we'll make our way through this. So Vice President Nicasio, your question for Firefighter Crow, please.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Firefighter Crow, I'm going to ask you a question in lieu that you applied for a religious exemption and you were denied by HR. My question to you, because you made a statement in terms of not wanting to be separated from the department, is there any feasibility in terms of you changing your mind to be fully vaccinated so that you may remain in the department?
Thank you for that question, Commissioner. Again, if there was a vaccine that prevented the spread and fully fell in line with my sincerely held religious beliefs, and is safe and effective, and the survivability rate for me and my age group for this virus is 99.98% chance of surviving if infected. And so the adverse events that have occurred are closer to 2%, which actually outweigh my chances of dying from COVID. So if all of those things fell in line, then I would consider taking the vaccine.
All right, Firefighter Crow, there was a question asked previous, but I'll repeat the question in terms of what my comprehension is that my understanding that if you as a member did comply and become fully vaccinated, there is I'm going to use the word possibility that your chief's recommendation in terms of undisciplinary separation could be rescinded. So I'm just going to state that with my comprehension. Thank you very much for your answers, Firefighter Crow.
Thank you.
Are other questions for Firefighter Crow?
Madam President, just as a point of order, with that answer that Firefighter Crow provided for me, if there are no other questions from the commissioners, I will delete my request to the question that I have for the Chief of the Department, which fell into line in terms of the question that I just asked the member.
And so you're withdrawing your desire to ask the chief a question? I'm sorry, I just lost you there for a second.
Yeah, I'm rescinding my request in terms of having the chief answer the question, because I know that in previous testimony, that question has been asked, not by myself, but my fellow commissioners, in terms of if a member changes their minds and takes the vaccine, would they be reinstated within the department and rescind the recommendation of undisciplined separation. So I will make the request to rescind so that we can conclude this hearing today.
All right. Let me
Madam
I'm sorry.
Madam President?
Sorry, Commissioner Covington.
That's quite all right. Yes, I have asked that question in the past because my understanding from the chief has always been that until further notice, the people who come before us are members of the department. So that this is the last time the person can say, yes, I will comply with what the chief of the department has said I need to do in order to stay a member of the department. So just wanted to clarify that.
All right, thank you. And I know Commissioner Morgan, I believe you had a question.
No, I didn't have any questions. It's a pretty good binder he has here, full of details, and I think all my questions were answered in his testimonies here and his exhibits. So I'm good for now.
All right.
President Feinstein,
Yes,
excuse me.
of course.
Since I'm sworn in as a witness, am I able to make some statements that go on the record under oath, or is
You are. It's always a little bit tricky because it's almost as if you're asking yourself questions and answering them yourself. So I may, uh, uh, sort of rope you in at some point, but if you want to offer factual testimony, which you can then use in your closing argument or what have you, you are able to do that. You are sworn in as a witness. And I don't think, and I'll check with Ms. Stoughton, but I don't think that Ms. Stoughton would object to your testifying in a narrative form, although she may then have questions for you, which she's entitled to ask. Does that make sense?
yeah, I understand that this can get a little confusing.
True. But you're welcome to proceed. It's your case.
Okay. I received and read the order of the health officer, number C1907Y, and the general order, file code 21A70. As to the order, I've read page 3, paragraph K, which tells me what is required to be fully vaccinated. I also reread page 12, paragraph 6 of the order, which repeats the vaccine requirement for high-risk settings. Although the department demanded I become vaccinated with it never provided me with fact sheet regarding the proposed vaccine, nor alternatives to vaccination, nor significant known risks and benefit of the vaccine, nor alternatives to the vaccine, their risks and benefits, nor the option to accept or refuse the proposed vaccine. I know that Chief Nicholson and many other firefighters were vaccinated with the available COVID-19 vaccines, and many of them became infected thereafter with COVID-19, especially between December and January 2022. Based on what I know, the entire intent of the health order, C1907Y updated, is undermined by requiring a vaccination that doesn't serve the purpose or the intent of the stated objectives of the health order, which were clearly to protect the community from COVID-19, because requiring firefighters to be vaccinated doesn't stop infection or spread of COVID-19. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Stoughton, follow-up questions.
Nothing from the city.
All right. Any other questions? I have a question for the firefighter if nobody else does. And my question, and along with my fellow commissioners, have sat through a number of these hearings and listen to the public comment, and some of it's accurate about what's occurred and some of it is not accurate about what's occurred. And it appears to be the case from credible sources, and perhaps we could debate what's credible and what's not credible, but that the only issue isn't whether or not the vaccine prevents somebody from contracting COVID-19 or from spreading COVID-19, But if they get COVID-19, it seems to me to be irrefutable that fewer people die from it. People that have comorbidities, previous health conditions, that, are immunosuppressed, what have you. Do you agree with that or not agree with it?
I do agree with that, but at the same time, that becomes a therapeutic and not a vaccine. That also becomes a private health decision and not a public one. And so that's what I have to say to that. And so, in terms of mandating a private medical decision that doesn't technically protect the community is unlawful.
All right, so you believe it that the health order is unlawful, essentially.
I believe it's impossible for me to comply with the health order based on the definitions within. And every other document that has come out by the city or the department that references fully vaccinated, the only definition where you can find it is within the health order.
All right, I think I understand your position. And I won't go into, well, no, I will. I'm going to ask you a question because you've moved your exhibits into evidence. You indicate that you're at that time, I think you only had one child, and congratulations on having a second. That your one child at the time had not received any childhood vaccines. Is that based upon the same decision that you feel your religious beliefs compel you to make?
Yes, I do believe that that is based on the sincerely held religious beliefs.
And it would be, again, I'm referring to your own exhibits, it would be your intent not to have your children vaccinated in the future. I'm not talking about COVID, I'm talking about traditional childhood vaccines.
With all due respect, I think I'm going to object to the question.
Well, you can object, but I'm going to overrule your objection because you're the one that introduced the exhibit that I'm basing my question on.
And I think I'm gonna have to reserve answering this question due to the religious exemption, possibly leading to civil court.
Okay. Ms. Stoughton, do you have any follow-up questions to any of the commissioners' questions?
I don't. I would just note for the record that the member has refused to answer a question and asked that the Fire Commission make an inference from that refusal. But I don't have any further questions.
That's noted for the record. All right. So at this time, both sides have rested, and Vice President Nicasio, I'm just going to ask you one last time. Do you wish us to keep this matter open so you can address a question to the chief, or what's your pleasure, sir?
Madam President, we do not need to ask my question again. I'm satisfied to the question that the firefighter gave, Firefighter Crow, as well as the reference from from Commissioner Covington, that the question that was asked to the chief about reinstating a member if they complied with the flu vaccine.
All right, so we are done with that. Does the department wish to make a closing argument?
I do.
All right, Ms. Stoughton?
Thank you. In the summary of the health order, the health officer made the following determination, and I'm quoting: San Francisco has experienced a surge in new COVID-19 cases and an increase in hospitalizations, mostly among people who are not fully vaccinated, due to the highly contagious Delta variant. Future surges may occur due to other variants. In some instances, individuals who are not fully vaccinated, who are fully vaccinated, have been infected by breakthrough infections and are showing symptoms, though nearly no vaccinated individuals have required hospitalization. So the health order itself recognized that there are breakthrough infections even for fully vaccinated employees. Consistent with that finding, the health order states, quote, "The best way to address the current COVID surge and future surges is for everyone who is eligible to get fully vaccinated as soon as possible." That basic premise, as outlined in the health order, is not subject to dispute in these proceedings. The health officer made those determinations under her authority as a state San Francisco health officer to protect the public health of all employees and all citizens of the city and county of San Francisco. Firefighter Crow's personal opinions question the efficacy and science behind the COVID vaccines are irrelevant. You also heard him just tell the commission that one of the reasons that he doesn't want to get vaccinated is that there's no risk or very low risk for someone of his age group. But again, the fire department can't just look at the risk to Firefighter Crow. They have to consider the risk to the broader population that the San Francisco Fire Department serves, including those members of the city of San Francisco who are part of a vulnerable population, who have comorbidities, who can't be vaccinated. So that focus on himself misses the point of what the San Francisco Fire Department has to consider. There's also no validity to the claim that the health order is impossible to comply with because the definition of fully vaccinated includes the word prevent. What it actually says is vaccines that are authorized to prevent. Whether or not they fully prevent COVID is irrelevant. What matters is if it was approved to do so, and it is undisputed under the health order and general public knowledge that there are multiple vaccines that have been approved by the FDA and the WHO that are available to the public that have been authorized to prevent COVID. The health order goes beyond just that one sentence and lists examples of these vaccines just in case there are any questions, and contains a link to the FDA and WHO website where people can go look up the vaccine information. Firefighter Crow's argument would require the commission to find that the health officer issued a health order she knew nobody to comply with. That argument should be dismissed on its face. Consistent with the public health concerns laid out in the health order, the health officer recognized that there are certain high-risk settings where public health needs require that all persons entering be fully vaccinated. The health order permitted exemptions based on a sincerely held religious belief or medical disability, but specified that accommodation may not be possible for employees working in high-risk settings due to the inherent risks working with those populations. The chief testified that a firefighter, like Firefighter Crow, could enter a high-risk setting at any time in the normal course of their work. She also testified that it is impossible for a firefighter to perform the essential functions of their position if they are not authorized to enter a high-risk setting. Chief also testified that relying on the provisions of the health order, she determined that the department could not accommodate even those employees who had a sincerely held religious belief that prevented them from getting the COVID vaccine because of the risks an unvaccinated employee would pose to the public that they serve, as well as their coworkers and the city workforce. It is undisputed that Firefighter Crow had notice of his obligation to comply with the vaccination requirement in the general order and the health order. It is also undisputed that firefighter Crow knew he would be subject to a non-disciplinary separation if he failed to comply with the health order and general order's vaccination requirement. Firefighter Crow made the personal decision not to get vaccinated. Therefore, he can no longer perform the essential functions of his position and must be separated. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stoughton. And now Firefighter Crow, I turn to you for your closing statement.
Yes, thank you. All right. The city did not provide any facts or preponderance of evidence to show why you should terminate me. They said you as commissioners can't rule against the health order. You must accept that the health order and the general order are all good, or at least good enough to fire this loyal, dedicated San Francisco firefighter. Well, I just proved not only am I not a direct threat to the public, but that this health order and general order is based on a definition that is impossible to comply with. The vaccine may be authorized to prevent COVID, but they do not, in fact, prevent COVID. I would argue that all city employees currently working are not in compliance with the health order. So now you're going to deliberate on whether or not to terminate me based on a flawed document that does not rely on the most current factual medical evidence. The CDC says that the vaccine can't stop transmission. CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News all say it doesn't stop transmission. CDC Director Rochelle Walensky stated in an interview in January 2022 that our vaccines are working extremely well. They continue to work well in regards to Delta and severe illness and death. What they can't do anymore is prevent transmission. Dr. Sunetra Gupta, an infectious disease epidemiologist and professor of theoretical epidemiology at the University of Oxford, said, "It is really not logical to use vaccines to protect other people. I don't think they should be forced to on the understanding simply because this vaccine does not prevent transmission. So if you just think of the logic of it, what is the point of requiring a vaccine to protect others if the vaccine does not durably prevent onward transmission of the virus?" Within the fire department general order is the city's vaccination policy. The purpose statement within that policy states, the city and county of San Francisco must provide a safe and healthy workplace, consistent with COVID-19 public health guidance and legal requirements. It's time for the city and the fire department to get consistent and to get current when it comes to this mandate. The evidence now shows that the vaccines do not prevent people from contracting and transmitting COVID-19. That is why millions of unvaccinated people, including many fire department employees, fell ill with the Omicron variant last winter. This trend will continue as other COVID variants emerge. Thus, the continued enforcement of the vaccine mandate does not serve the city's stated purpose of preventing infection. The most COVID shots can do is potentially reduce the severity of COVID-19 symptoms. But even that has not been scientifically proven, and there are other ways to reduce the severity of COVID-19 without compelling and coercing people to get a shot they do not want to take. And taking a shot to potentially reduce the severity of illness is a private health issue, not a public one. If I was in your position today, I would be directing the fire chief to get with the health officer and other city officials to ask why this says fully vaccinated means being injected with a vaccine that prevents the spread of COVID. And to do so before we terminate any more of our firefighters. That is absolutely within your authority as a citizen commission. You can direct the chief on policy, and you can direct investigations into any aspect of governmental operations. I'm not asking you to rule against the health order, as Ms. Stoughton continues to state. I'm asking as you are my judge and jury tasked with making this extremely life-altering decision to direct the chief to get some answers. There's only one definition for fully vaccinated, and that definition is in the health order. And the health order was used to draft the fire department general order and any other document the city and the fire department released in regards to COVID vaccination. I would imagine you as commissioners, my judge and my jury, have some questions for the author of this health order. That person is Dr. Susan Phillip, the health officer for the city and county of San Francisco. Well, I requested that the commission issue a notice to appear and to issue a subpoena, if necessary, to testify, for Dr. Phillip to testify per the separation hearing guidelines. Department counsel objected to that request with very little validity, and I responded to the objection, but a ruling was never made prior to this hearing. Why would department counsel even object to such a request? If their case was so strong, let me call whoever I want. There's only one reason, and that is because they know the health order is flawed. And they know that Dr. Phillip, if Dr. Phillip testified here today, not only would the department be extremely embarrassed, but you would all be voting not to separate me. And that is because I am complying with the health order. There is no vaccine for COVID-19 that prevents transmission of the virus. There is no vaccine that stops the spread. If the department is not producing an expert to show the order can be complied with, then it is clear that the department has not met the burden of proof. Commissioners, you are ultimately responsible for my termination. Don't you want the most current relevant factual data and information to base your decision on? How can you sleep at night knowing your ruling was not based on up-to-date information? I know I sure wouldn't. And trying to figure out why that has already occurred 8 times to my brothers and sisters is just one more stressful question that keeps me up at night. My exemption will be handled in civil court, but it shouldn't even have to get to that because the primary document is flawed. And I'm in full compliance with the health order, and therefore I am in full compliance with the general order. Please direct the chief to get with staff and city officials to iron this out, and at least come back with a stronger case to upend my livelihood. I would just like to say one more thing. I am the man today because of my faith and because of those I surround myself with. I love my Station 36 family, the men I literally trust my life with. Thank you for your support. I miss and I love you guys. And I'd happily shave this beard off to get back on that engine. To my beautiful wife, she is so strong and has supported me at every step in this process. I don't know what I'd do without you. And to my parents, thank you for your unwavering support throughout my life. My moral character was molded by my parents and theirs by the generations before them. I was brought up knowing the importance of fighting against discrimination and fighting for what is right, regardless of popular opinion. Please take the health order definition of fully vaccinated into serious consideration when making your decision today. Thank you.
Thank you, Firefighter Crow. Is there any rebuttal from Ms. Stoughton?
There is not.
All right. Then these proceedings will conclude. The first thing that we need to do, or if we did it, I'm sorry, that I believe we already voted that we would proceed with deliberations in closed session. So we will now go into closed session to deliberate on the matter and reconvene in open session.
President Feinstein, can I say one more
Yes,
thing?
of course. Yes, you may.
I'm sorry, in regards to the deliberating in closed session, in my understanding, I feel it violates the Brown Act. And if it's for my own privacy rights, I just wanted to state that I am waiving those privacy rights in order to have public deliberation.
And I appreciate that. It's the prerogative of the commission to deliberate just much as a jury deliberates in closed session. And that is how we have voted to proceed and will proceed. So I appreciate and note your objection. All right.
Okay, I will put everybody that will not be in closed session into the attendee group.
All right, and I will be right back. 1 second, please. I mean, go ahead, but I'll be right back.